Hello, my name is Ren and I'm 29 years old. The last few months have been a roller coaster, but I think it makes for a great story, so here I am. This is the story of how I got revenge on my entitled mother-in-law and sister-in-law, which led to them losing all of the things that made them entitled. Let me begin by telling you about myself. I am the child of a single mother. My mom, Gloria, worked hard to give me a good life. I remember the days when she would feed me as much as I wanted and she would barely eat. She started working for this huge company that provided a lot of services like catering and cleaning. She worked her way up from being a small-time janitor or being the head of the cleaning department. She's an amazing woman. And there's no one in the world that I respect and adore more than my mom, including my husband. With that introduction out of the way, this story starts off with me meeting my husband, Blake. Blake and I met through a dating app. We had amazing chemistry on text, and I will admit that I was very nervous to meet him in person. Eventually, I plucked up the courage to ask him out on a date, and he said yes. Thankfully, our chemistry on text translated perfectly in person too. Before I knew it, I was falling head over heels for this man, and apparently he felt the same way about me too. As the months began to pass by, I learned a lot about him. Blake came from a family where the women were very successful. The most successful one was his mother, Rita. Rita was a self-made millionaire and was also a single mother to Blake and his sister Samantha. While Blake never got to live like a rich person when growing up, his sister definitely did. And that's only because for a good portion of Blake's childhood, Rita was still building her business up and they lived paycheck to paycheck. But hearing about how successful his mom was made me inspired and also in awe of her. She was who I aspire to be. And with the way Blake talked about her, I knew that he wanted to be like her too. So when Blake and I hit the 1-year mark of our anniversary, we decided that it was time for us to introduce each other to our parents. My mom adored Blake, and she was really happy that he made me happy. I was glad that the meeting went well, but I knew that there was still one more meeting to tackle, Blake's mom. We decided to meet her at a restaurant for dinner. I was a nervous wreck and none of Blake's reassurances were working. When he finally got to the restaurant, Blake's mom, Rita, was already seated at the table. She got up when she saw us and greeted us both with hugs. We sat down and Rita started the conversation by asking Blake how he was doing. Blake, darling, how are you? I'm good. This is my girlfriend, Ren. Hello, it's nice to meet you. Blake has told me a lot about you. I hope only good things. But I'm Rita, and it's nice to finally meet the woman who's had my son wrapped around her pinky. Mom! I'm kidding, but tell me more about yourself, Ren. What do you do for work? I'm currently working as an accountant for a pretty big firm. Whoa, a girl that's good with her money. Lord knows Blake needs that. Hey, I'm pretty good with my money. Is that true, Ren? He definitely is better with it now that I'm there. Ha! And what do your parents do, Ren? Well, my dad passed away when I was young, and I was raised by my mom. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. No, it's all right. I mean, I got used to it being just me and my mom. She's an amazing woman. She's worked so hard to make sure that I have a good life, and now here I am. That's nice to hear. What does she do for work? Well, she works for a huge company that does all kinds of catering services, and she's part of the cleaning business. Cleaning business? Your mother's a janitor? I guess, but I wouldn't limit it to just that. Blake, darling, are you sure that you want to be with someone whose mother is a janitor? Excuse me? I'm sorry, but what does my mother's job have to do with who I am? It has everything to do with you. Your mother's work ethic and ideas rub off on you, and that will, in turn, affect my son. I don't necessarily think that this is a good relationship for him. That's a disgusting attitude to have about this. Ren just told you about how her mother worked hard to give her this life, and now you're shaming her for it? Look, I truly applaud her mother for working so hard, but darling, you've been blessed with so much. I just don't see why you should mingle with people like them. People like them? Stop being so elitist. You were once part of the hard-working middle class, and it was only by chance that you got to where you are today. And I will not be speaking to you until you apologize and learn to treat Ren with respect. I was pretty much gobsmacked after my first interaction with Rita. I could not understand how one's perception of someone could change so fast. I mean, I was a good person for her son until I told her that my mom worked in the cleaning industry. And the very fact that she automatically assumed that my mother worked as a janitor and then proceeded to be disgusted by it, I was raging. Blake made sure to apologize profusely to me for his mother's words, but I didn't want any apologies from him. It was Rita who I wanted an apology from, but she never apologized to me. Instead, she told Blake's sister Samantha about my mom and her job, and together Rita and Samantha would poke fun at me whenever they could. Blake obviously did not tolerate that, and he went low contact with both of them. When we hit the 3-year mark for our relationship, we decided that it was time for us to get married. We didn't want a big, elaborate wedding, so we only invited our closest friends and family. I didn't want Blake to have a wedding that did not have his family present, so I forced an intervention. After a lot of talking, Rita and Samantha half-heartedly apologized to me. I knew that they did not mean the apology, but I just wanted no tension between us, so I let it go. Blake seemed happy with that too, so we invited them to our wedding. The wedding thankfully went off without a hitch, and Blake and I lived pretty happily after. I mean, now that we were family, I was obligated to spend time with Rita and Samantha, and they would still throw backhanded insults my way. But eventually, I learned to just let it go. A short while after Blake and I got married, Samantha started dating someone from her university. She introduced us to him after dating him for 6 months, and they made a cute couple. While I had no other opinions on their relationship, the one thing I did like about it was that he kept her busy, so she had no time to team up with Rita to taunt me. Anyways, 2 years after they graduated from college, they decided to get married. Of course, Blake and I didn't know that until Rita and Samantha showed up at our place unannounced one day. "Oh, hey, Samantha and Rita, what are you guys doing here?" "I hope you don't mind us coming here unannounced." "No, of course not. Come in." "Oh, hey, guys." "Hi, darling. Samantha and I came over here because she has something big to tell you." "Oh, is everything all right?" "Of course it is." "Go on, Samantha. Tell them the big news." "I'm engaged." "That's wonderful. Congratulations. When's the wedding happening?" "It'll be happening in 3 months." "Whoa, 3 months? Don't you think that's really soon?" "Yeah, but I didn't want to wait. I love him, and he loves me, and we just want to get all of this done with." "Of course, but that doesn't mean that you don't want a big fat wedding." "Oh yeah, I'm planning on having the biggest wedding bash ever." "That's great. It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment. That is, if you do it right, of course. It's good that you're going to make it big." "Yeah, believe me, it's a day that you'll remember forever, so might as well go all out." "Yeah, and the thing is, I have just one more big news that I plan on revealing at the wedding." "What is it?" "I'm pregnant." "What? That's amazing." "I'm so happy for you." Yeah, technically that's why I want to get married so fast. I mean, I still want to look skinny and pretty at my wedding, and this pregnancy won't let that happen unless I do it soon. Besides, I know that wedding planning can be stressful, and I do not want to deal with that when I'm heavily pregnant. Let me know if there's anything I could do to help you out. If there's any way that I can curb any worries, I'll do my best. Doesn't your mother work as a janitor? Really, Mom? Now? I'm only asking because Samantha could use that company's services for her wedding. Well, I mean, I could talk to my mom and let you know, but they could be a little expensive. I'm just giving you a heads up. What? Do you think we're as broke as you? Please. I know it's a hard concept to grasp, but a lot of people have more money than you've ever had in your entire life. Okay, that's enough. You either talk to Ren with respect, especially since she offered to help you guys out with the wedding planning, or you can leave our house. Fine, whatever. We bought champagne to celebrate. Hearing Rita talk to me in that way and having Samantha side with her hurt me a lot. There were so many things I wished I could have said, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I was so worried about coming across as disrespectful. I tried my best to ignore their comments, but the more I tried, the harder it got to ignore them. As the night wore on, though, and as I had more champagne in me, I found it easier to forget about Rita and Samantha's comments. They didn't say anything more to me after that, probably because they couldn't comprehend actually respecting me, but I was happy about it. Even though I shouldn't have helped Samantha, I couldn't help myself. She was Blake's sister, and I felt obligated to help her out. So I called my mother and told her about the wedding. My mom was not too happy about my request, but for my sake, she decided to provide services at Samantha's wedding. My mom knew about how Samantha and Rita looked down on her, and by extension, me too. And she wanted nothing to do with them, but she understood where I was coming from, so she even agreed to give them services at a very marked down rate. Finally, when the day of the wedding came, Blake and I dressed as nicely as we could. But of course, Rita had something to say about my dress and about how poor I looked. I let the comment go. Then, at the reception, she decided to also limit the food that I was eating because she didn't want me to get too fat. Once again, I let it go. When she saw that she wasn't getting under my skin, I could tell she was getting agitated. At some point, Samantha sat with us when she was taking a break from talking to everyone. Just a few minutes after she sat down with us, we happened to notice some food spilled on the floor. Who dropped that plate of food on the floor? Oh, it was one of my friend's kids. He was a little clumsy. I'll get someone to clean it up right away. Nonsense. There's no need to get anyone to do it. You want me to just leave it on the floor like that? No, of course not. Ren, here. Napkin? Why are you giving me this? For you to go and clean up that mess that some child made there. Mom, what is wrong with you? You can't just make her clean up that mess. Why not? I'm her mother-in-law, and she has to listen to me. She actually does not. You have no reason to treat her this way. Oh, come on, Blake. There's nothing wrong with Ren helping clean up. She's a guest at my wedding anyway. You hired enough people to help you clean that up. I don't understand why Ren should clean it up. Are you really going against your mother here? Of course I am. You're bullying my wife. Mom could never bully anyone. You and I know that she's always been the sweetest, most kind person we knew. Well, a sweet and kind person wouldn't make their daughter-in-law clean a mess at a function that she didn't make. Blake, just let it go. No, I'm not letting this go. You heard her, son. Let it go. She has more respect for me than you do, and that's embarrassing. Not to mention, she cares more about not ruining my day than you do, Blake. Excuse me for caring more about my wife than your messed up feelings. Enough. I don't want to hear anything more. Ren, take that napkin and start cleaning up. I'm sure your janitor mom must have trained you well. Yeah, your mom may have gotten a day off today, but she sure is having fun mingling with her colleagues. Maybe you should show us what she taught you so she can be proud of you in front of them. Excuse me? Is that really why you're asking her to clean up? Do you even... Blake, I told you to let it go. I'll do whatever they want. I was angry and feeling pretty humiliated as it was. I grabbed the napkin from Rita and picked up the mess. I couldn't believe how disgusting and vile Rita was as a person, and as much as I wanted to confront her about it, I didn't want to cause a scene by starting a fight with her. After I was done picking up the food, I left the table and went to find a quiet place to calm down, because let me tell you, the thoughts I was having about Rita and Samantha were not nice, and I did not think I could be around them without bursting out in anger. However, once the anger cooled off, I couldn't help but feel sad. I desperately wanted to put Rita and Samantha in their place, but I didn't know how to do it without looking like I was a fool. Blake had been giving them a piece of his mind at that time, but I didn't think that was going to ever stop them. Thankfully, my mother came to my rescue. At some point, she found me and noticed that I was not being my usual self. Of course, I tried to put on an act in front of her, but she's my mother and she knows me better than anyone else. Sweetie, you look upset. Is everything okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Do you really think you could lie to me? I can see that something's bothering you. I hate how well you know me. Why, of course, I'm your mother. If I don't know you well, then who will? That's true. Something happened earlier and I don't exactly know how to feel about it. What do you mean? What happened? A child spilled some food on the floor and Rita asked me to clean it up with a napkin. What? Why would she ask you to do that? This wedding is huge and I know that I definitely give them quite a few helping hands for all of that. Yeah, well, Rita asked me to do that because she expected my janitor mom to have trained me well. What? Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it because on the one hand, she's my mother-in-law and I need to be nice to her, but on the other, I'm so angry and hurt that she would insult you like that. I know exactly how you should feel. You should feel angry. Not only because they insulted me, but also because they insulted you and belittled you based on something that was not in your control. You're right, but it's not nice to feel angry, especially when it's such a big day for Samantha. Well, what did Samantha have to say when Rita said all of that? That by cleaning the mess up, you'd be proud of me in front of your colleagues. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, sweetie, you are the nicest person I know, but I will not let you stand by and let them insult you or me this way. I don't want to do that either, but I don't know what to do. It's simple. When it's time for toasts, you're going to make one and you're going to reveal something about Samantha and Rita. I love that, but what do I reveal? I have nothing. But I do. Rita's check bounced and she doesn't have the money to buy this catering service. I gave it to her for free, but I haven't told her anything. Second, but most importantly, my crew found Samantha kissing the best man in the bathroom right after the reception started. Whoa, what? I'll get you the proof in a bit, and when you get it, you're going to expose them. I've had enough of my little girl getting bullied by her in-laws. Okay, they're coming to our table right now. Act natural, and in a few minutes, I'll leave. My head was spinning with the new information that I found out. I mean, it was one thing to find out that Rita's business was failing, but to find out that Samantha was cheating at her wedding, that was huge news. It almost felt wrong to tell it to everyone via a toast, but then after my mom left the table, Rita and Samantha kept giggling and making jokes at my mom's expense. And just like that, all of my inhibitions flew out the window and I was ready to wreak havoc on them. So I waited another half hour until my mom signaled me over to the bathroom. And once I got there, my mom told me that she had gathered the evidence and she had handed it over to the person managing the projector. She told me that as soon as I started speaking, the proof of Rita and Samantha's wrongs would be projected on the big screen for everyone to see. I will not lie, I'm usually terrified of speaking in front of a large audience, but hearing that made me excited. For the first time, I was giddy with excitement to make a speech. I couldn't wait to see what would happen to Samantha and Rita, but of course I couldn't do something so drastic without letting Blake in on it. I managed to pull him aside and fill him in on everything that my mom had told me. Blake was shocked and disgusted. He couldn't believe that his mom was a fraud and his sister was a cheat. He was very angry with the two of them, so of course he was on my side when I told him about my plan. Finally, when it came time for me to give my toast, I opened by congratulating the couple on their marriage and then told everyone that I would have wished for a long marriage for them. But I couldn't. The entire hall erupted in murmurs. And that's when the picture of Samantha kissing the best man was projected onto the big screen. I swear, you could hear a pin drop after that. Samantha looked pale as a ghost, and the groom looked like he'd been smacked in the face because of how shocked he looked. I went to expose Rita's lies about her business too. I essentially talked about how it was no surprise that Samantha would lie and cheat, considering Rita was lying and cheating with her business. After my toast was done, Blake and I walked out of the reception hall hand in hand. It felt beyond amazing to stand up for myself in that way and also expose Rita and Samantha in the process. Because Blake and I didn't get to see the aftermath of my toast, my mom filled me in on it the next day. She told me that I had essentially started a storm and left before it all hit the ceiling. The groom left and Samantha was a crying mess. Rita was also crying as she spoke to a lot of people. Most of the guests left, and in the end, Samantha and Rita went home together. My mom didn't know all the details, but I found out about them soon enough anyway, because the next day, both of them showed up at my door. Thankfully, Blake was with me too. Oh, hey guys, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Do you even know what kind of damage you've done to our lives? Last time I checked, I didn't do any damage to your lives. You guys were the ones that were hiding things, and all I did was expose you two for the frauds that you are. Why? What have we ever done to you? Really, Mom? Are you seriously asking what you guys have done to her? Is this because we asked her to clean up the floor at my wedding? That, along with all the times that you've belittled me and my mother, all because you couldn't stomach the fact that my mother was not as glamorous as you two are. Because she isn't. How did she even know about my bank statements? She's not supposed to be privy to that kind of information. That's a serious breach of contract, and I could get her fired, you know. I doubt you'd be able to do that. Oh, really? And why is that? Because she's the head of the cleaning department of the company. She was the one that approved of your wedding, and so she had access to everything that you had sent, including your bank statements. She gave you free service only because you were family, but clearly that was not a value that you guys seemed to carry, so she decided that she wouldn't stand for it. So you deliberately held that information from us? You're a lying, manipulative cheat, and no wonder I can see exactly where you got it from. Okay, that's enough. You two need to learn to show everyone basic respect regardless of their backgrounds. You've faced the consequences of your actions and now it's time to learn from them. What's there for me to learn? I've lost my relationship, all because of your snooping, meddling wife and mother-in-law. Don't you dare blame Ren or Gloria for your gross actions. Take accountability for your disgusting ways. What about me? Do you have any idea how many of my investors were present there? None of them actually knew about how much loss the business was in, and now they're all pulling out and I'll have to shut my company down. If you knew You were running such a hefty loss, then you most definitely should not have been trying to humiliate Ren. It's sad that the two of you are in this position, but let this be a learning moment for you. There's nothing more to say or that I want to hear, so please get off our property and never contact us again." Rita and Samantha's faces were pale as they realized the consequences of their actions. While they were struggling with their new reality, I was feeling like I was on cloud 9. I was finally free of their bullying and their constant belittling. I knew that I tolerated them for longer than I should have, but I only did it out of the respect for my family. I didn't actually know how much my speech affected their lives until much later, though. Samantha's fiancé contacted me to let me know how he had left her. Considering they hadn't been married for even just a few hours before he found out about her cheating on him, he was able to get the marriage annulled. He was afraid that it would be a long and draining process, but it wasn't. What was long and draining was trying to get Samantha to leave him alone. Thankfully, they hadn't joined any of their accounts before, and they were living in a rental. So splitting up was supposed to be easy, but Samantha was never one to make things easy. She tried to beg him to stay and forgive her for days, but when she found out that he wasn't going to listen to her, she took some other measures. The initial agreement they had was that he would move out and she could stay in the apartment until the lease ended. In the middle of her ex moving out, she decided that she needed to keep his things hostage so he couldn't move them out. She locked his things in the spare bedroom and refused to give him the keys to it. When that didn't work either, she decided to change the locks to the apartment so he could no longer enter and take his things when she wasn't home. Of course, this did not fly with either her ex or the landlord, so she was kicked out and her ex was able to move out in peace. But that didn't stop Samantha from constantly trying to get in touch with him. He ended up having to get a restraining order against her. And with that information in my hand, I knew that Samantha would need someone to pin the blame on. And just as I had predicted, she came to me about it. She flooded my phone with messages about how I was a horrible person for destroying her relationship, and a lot of the messages were so vile that I don't think it's right for me to repeat them. As for Rita, well, her company was apparently undergoing a huge loss for a long time, but she had been forging records to keep the investors and stockholders with her. So with the loss of her investors, she was essentially broke. She had to sell her business and her house to make up for the loans. She's struggling to find another job, but thankfully she hasn't approached either Blake or me to insult us, like Samantha has. The last thing I heard about them was that they were living together and barely making ends meet. While I should feel some sort of sympathy for them, I simply can't bring myself to do that. I mean, they brought this on themselves for looking down on someone and insulting them for the hard work that they'd done. My mother raised me to always help those in need, but I think I'm more than okay not doing that for Rita and Samantha. Blake and I are finally living the life we've always wanted, free of drama and toxicity. We never realized how much of an impact Rita and Samantha were making on us until they were gone. And let me tell you, this is what relief feels like. I no longer have to tiptoe around conversations, nor do I have to be ashamed about anything in my life. I'm happier now, and that's the best feeling. I'm so excited to see what more life has to offer me. So here's to hoping for only the best of all things.